Okay. The title of this video is Explaining Freemasonry to Freemasons. Now, I know that sounds very insulting and quite patronizing, but it's not the intention. Um, Freemasonry, and for that matter, all the secret societies, they're about mysticism. So if you don't know what mysticism is, think of the word mysticism and the word mystery or mystic. So mysticism is the mystery of the universe. And if you look at the quote, the Lord works in mysterious ways, you can start there as your basis. So I'm going to start with two premises about Freemasonry. The first thing I'll tell you is I'm not a Freemasonry. I never Freemasonry. I'm not a Freemason. I never have been. People are going to doubt this and question it, but Freemasons can actually look into it and prove it. So I'm not really too concerned. I visited two lodges. One was the lodge in Weston Road. This is in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We had a baseball banquet and we used the hall. The other one that I actually went in and spoke to people was the one on Annette, which is in the Junction Triangle again in Toronto. They were very nice. They were gentlemen. They were very kind, very welcoming. I don't want to call them clueless. By their own admission, though, when I started talking, they're like, we don't really understand what you're saying. And they referred me to the Rosicrucians, which is the ancient mystical order of Rosicrucians. So ancient mystical. So this is what we're talking about here. I'm actually going to tell a quick story. I'm doing this on the fly, so I'm just going to kind of roll with it. About 12 years ago, I got a job at Franklin Templeton, which is a financial institution. I got a manager's job. It was funny. I actually went for the supervisor position, and in the middle of the interview, kind of similar to at the Masonic Lodge, I didn't realize the manager was interviewing me for the supervisor position. He excused himself halfway through the interview, and he left. And I found this out after from my friend who was the AVP. He went and talked to the vice president, the assistant vice president, and he's like, I'm interviewing this guy for the supervisor job, and I don't understand what he's saying. It's over my head. At the time, I didn't know this, but there wasn't just a supervisor position open. There was actually another manager position open. So the AVP and the VP came into the interview, took over the interview, and without me knowing, they started interviewing me for the manager's position. And I got the interview. I got the job with that one interview. So now fast forward, I'm in my very first meeting. I might not have been the youngest person there, but I was definitely the most junior. Everyone there was senior to me, had more seniority. So I'm the newest one there. The meeting starts. We have about 100, 150 people on the floor that we're managing. So there's maybe 8 to 10 managers in this meeting. None of the staff, 8 to 10 managers. There's the assistant vice president, the CFO. And I didn't know this at the time, but there was the AVP, the assistant vice president from human resources. And he was in his third year of graduate school to become a psychologist. Okay. So the meeting starts and they're basically talking shit about our floor and all the staff. And they're saying that there's no leadership on the floor. And they're going and everyone's kind of bickering and it kind of seemed pretty trashy. So I asked, how long have you been here for? And one person's like 5 years, 7 years, 9 years, 11 years. They've all been there very long extended periods. So I kind of have a big mouth, as you've probably seen in my other videos. So I'm like, okay, listen guys, I'm sorry, but if I've been managing a team for 1 year and at the end of 1 year, I don't have any leaders on my team, the only person that doesn't know anything about leadership is me. You develop leaders. Now, the whole room went quiet because I basically just slapped everyone in the face and insulted everyone. Then they got their backs up and they basically ripped into me for the next hour and a half. Sorry to make this quick. I'm going to sound arrogant. I basically destroyed them. So it was a conversation on leadership. One of my favorite quotes is, the highest form of leadership isn't ruling over people, it's serving them. And then my other quote, which plays out really important in today's world, is, when there's no leaders to follow, you must become one. Okay. So we went through this whole meeting, boom, 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 all about leadership. They were basically all attacking me because I just insulted them. So the meeting's over. On the way out, the AVP from Human Resources comes up to me as I'm walking out the door and introduces himself and says he's in his third year of graduate school to become a psychologist. He's almost finished. And he says, oh, you know, so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. And he named like 3 or 4 psychiatrists or psychologists. And I'm like, no, I've never heard of those people before. And he looks at me funny and he's like, but you just did this theory, that theory, this theory, and that theory. And I'm like, yeah, but I go, I haven't even heard of those theories before. And then he really looked at me on and he's like, how do you know what you know? So think about this. This guy's in third year of graduate school to become a psychologist. And I just kind of went through 3 or 4 of the people that he's studying and went through 3 or 4 of the theories. And I'm like, I've actually studied ancient wisdom and mysticism, which is what this is about. mysticism. So you can think of people like Krishnamurti, there's Osho, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, Ramana Maharshi. You can think of people like Lao Tzu, Confucius, I mean, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, all the mystics, the gurus, the prophets, Eastern philosophers. This is basically what mysticism is. It's trying to solve the mystery of the universe. Okay, so now back to Freemasonry. And like I said, I've never been a Freemason. I'm explaining this not to other people, but actually to Freemasons. And here are the two base premises that I'm starting with. You guys would know this, obviously. This is your, yeah, over here. So go this way, this way. Okay, so you have your 33 degrees on this side, and then there's the 3 degrees on this side of the York Rite. That's the Scottish Rite over here. Sorry, I'm opposite in the mirror, so it's kind of taking me back and forth. All right, so you have 33 degrees. And now I lost my train of thought in doing that, so give me a quick second here. Jesus Christ, that's hilarious. Okay, so it's a mystery. So here are my two base premises. Sorry about that. I just kind of went off for a second there. The first premise is that nobody knows what's going on until the 33rd degree. And this is, I think, what a lot of people kind of think is that, you know, it's the secret society, you know, it's this mystery, and at the 33rd degree. The second premise is that none of you know. None of you, even at the highest echelons, don't know what the mystery is because it's a revelation. So if you think of Christianity, Catholicism, and the coming of Christ, I ask people, Catholics, Christians, priests, Christ, what's he going to look like? What's he going to say? How are you going to know it's him? When's he coming? And nobody has a clue. The arrogant think they do, and you can dismiss that really quickly. But nobody knows because it's a revelation. It's something to be revealed. That's literally what apocalypse means, and revelation, it means to reveal. So back to Freemasonry. Imagine nobody knows because somebody's going to show up and they're going to reveal the truth or the secret, and then everything's going to make sense. So that's the premise I'm actually almost going to focus on more, is that none of you know because you're waiting for one person. And until that one person comes, he's the only one that knows the entirety of the mystery, and he's the only one that can reveal it. And that's here what I'm to do. So if you've seen any of my other videos, I've actually already made the claim of Christ, and I've gone extensively into it. To me, it's two worlds coming together. So you can think of the outside of you and the inside of you, external and internal. So imagine the outside, you have all the kind of the religion and the churches and everything building. But imagine what makes you a mystic isn't what's on the outside of you. It's what's on the inside. So you go within and you search and you look into the darkness. Now, there you go, I'm going the right way. So that's the yin yang symbol. If you know quantum physics, they've just entangled two particles and they've taken a picture, and I think it's from one angle, but it looks like the yin yang symbol. So imagine those two particles being entangled. I don't want you to think of two dense material, solid objects, particles. I want you to think of consciousness, and I'm going to go into this after, but I've explained in some of my other videos that we don't live in a material universe. We live in a conscious universe, and out of consciousness comes the material world, similar to a dream. The second your dream starts, you've created time, space, free will, people, life, solid matter. So if my mind, my consciousness, my petty mind can produce solid matter, imagine what the consciousness of the universe can produce. So I want you to consider these 2 points of consciousness, as opposed to two particles. And you can think of Father, Son, Alpha, Omega, beginning and the end, quantum entanglement. Albert Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. So imagine you're one point, and then God or the universe is the other. And imagine that entanglement, okay? So what it basically is the top point there, it's usually black, but you can see, sorry, I'm really back, so I'm in the mirror here. So I'm seeing it opposite the reflection, so it's hard to point. But anyway, the top one is the earth right there, thank you. And we're in darkness. You look at all the pain, the suffering, the war, it could be anything from poverty, even depression, the way people are feeling. There's almost this impending hopelessness. So one of us had to go from the earth being in darkness into the darkness, and then retrieve the light and bring that back to the world, okay? I'll touch on, and I have touched on Plato's cave simile, being in the darkness, coming out into the light. It's a similar thing. So I don't want you to think darkness in terms of killing people, mutilating people, eating babies, and all these sacrifices you think that's going on. This is for people outside the community. There's evil everywhere, whether it's in a school, in a church, in a country, religion, race. So I'm not saying that there's never been any evil within the Masonic Empire, within the secret society, but I'm saying that's not the point of it. That's not the premise. The premise is solving the mystery, which is truth. Okay, so back to the original premise, nobody knows what's going on because it's about to be revealed. And until the revelation is revealed, then nobody knows and it's not going to make sense. Okay, so someone had to go into the darkness, and that's basically the eternal. So imagine you go so deep within. Now, people think of things eternal, infinite, and timeless as being like bigger, bigger, bigger and going on forever and ever. But think of infinitely small. So imagine going so deep within yourself that you actually dissolve the self. And when you no longer exist, be still and know that I am, or to the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. Another great quote, I'm a huge fan of quotes talking about mysticism, is the mystic swims in the same waters that the madman drowns in. Okay. And then my other favorite quote, just to get one more out, is about a fool. And a lot of people think I am. But fools will search for answers that the brave fear to know. Okay. Through a friend, I met a guy who was I don't know if he ever became a Mason, but he talked about when he was in kids and like Cub Scouts and like Beavers and all those little groups. And Masons would come and talk to the kids. And I know you're going to think this is really dark and creepy, but they were looking for the smartest of them. Okay, which is really interesting. It was like they were cherry picking. They were looking for the smartest kids to pull into the society. The funny thing is the revelation's about to be revealed by somebody who's not part of the society, because you don't have to be. If you solve the mystery of the universe, then you'll understand what it is. So we think that we're living here within time. Imagine there's no such thing as time for a second. Without me going into it deeply, I've explained it in other videos. But imagine there's no time. There's this one eternal moment. Imagine you splice time. So here I am in this dimension of time. But if I splice time, imagine my story or your story is sent back in time. And imagine all the religions and all the secret societies and all the philosophies and all the stories are moving forward to this moment. And that person, you or me, would awaken within this moment, would tie all the clues together, and would fulfill the prophecy, the destiny, the quantum entanglement. But it's not history moving up to this point. There's only this point, and there's only this eternal now. And if you spliced it, imagine it's the opposite. Instead of the prophecy moving forward, imagine it was sent back, and then society externally in the world and all the wealth and all the power and all the kind of infrastructure was built so that in this moment the person remembers. Okay, so you go so deep inside, you dissolve the self, and then you would touch on the eternal, infinite, and timeless, and that's where kind of it would be revealed. So getting more specifically now into Freemasonry, I don't want to lose this. So this is obviously your piece of paper here, which shows it. Now, let me get this right, up this side here, 33 degrees. It's the 32nd degree that I want to talk about, and it's Sublime Prince of the Royal Secret. Now, if you think about it, a prince obviously can become a king, and the royal secret. This is basically king of heaven and earth. Okay, so this is actually the two worlds coming together. Funny enough, as I started this journey at 18, I'm now 30. At 18, I'm now 51. It's been a 33-year journey, and that actually matches Christ's life, which is 33 years. And on the York side, which is 3 degrees, that's his ministry, from 30 to 33, which is kind of interesting. So the 32nd degree, and I have the booklet here. I'm going to kind of come up close and show you the picture. The word on it, it says REBIS. I don't know if I pronounced that right. It's REBIS. You can see the kind of the math, the protractor and the compass, and you can see the geometry of it all. What REBIS or REBIS, whatever the word is, means, it's the great work, okay? It's the union of opposites. I've actually written down a bunch of words that kind of, sorry to turn away from you here, that explain what some of the key things are. But this is about a 20-page document. I'm just going to kind of flip through it a little bit so you can kind of see the extent of it, just so you kind of know I'm not making this up. So yeah, there's like about 20 pages here. They're all very full pages. And it goes into everything. And I'm kind of sorry. Oh, here it is. I found the paper. My apologies. I've just written through the 20 pages. I've just written some of the key words so you can kind of see how mystical and how esoteric it is, I guess you can say. So it's the magnum opus is called The Great Work. In my other videos, I talk about it not as the great work, but as the world story. So imagine you have 8 billion people and they're all going through life. But imagine you have that one person that splices time and he creates or comes to know the great work or the world story. So while we all have our individual stories, imagine one person echoes through eternity, and this is the quantum entanglement. In other videos, I've talked about a theory of oneness, so I'm going to talk about that really quickly because that is the great work. So whether you're talking about an avatar, a Messiah, Christ, Neo from the Matrix, whether you're talking about a unified field theory, a universal field theory, or a theory of oneness, it's all the same thing, okay? And it has to come through an individual because it's not going to come through a rock or through a tree. It's going to come through a person and consciousness, going back to the conscious universe. So let me go through some of these words here. It's a union of opposites, and don't think of gender ideology. This has nothing to do with the physical. This is about consciousness. So the male and making the male and female, body and spirit, heaven and earth, multiverse in our universe. It's making the two into one, left into right, black and white. All the opposites would come in because at the end of the day, everyone talks, oh, God's so good, he's so loving, but God's everything. So he's the light in the dark. He's created good and he's created evil. Because if you believe in an all-knowing God in the beginning, that's all there is. So it all comes from that one source. You're looking at the two, light and dark, black and white, but those two form one. Okay, so you can almost consider it three. When you think of GPS, when you think of time, past, present, and future, when you think of the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I've talked about this, and I know I'm going fast, but I have a lot to talk about, so I apologize. Think about your dream, okay? So if you're at home sleeping, that would be the dreamer, so you'd be the father. The character in the dream would be the son or the daughter, and then the whole dream being your consciousness or the universe would be the Holy Spirit. Okay, so that's basically it. And I know a lot of Muslims and other forms of Christianity, they try to argue the Trinity, you know, how can it be you're one and the other and the same? Well, if I'm sleeping and this is all my dream, is it not all me? It's my consciousness. So I'm the dreamer, but I'm also the dream, and I'm also everything in the dream, including the character. So it's the three in one, okay? So some of the words it talks about here is the unification. It's the great work. It says Magism was the science of Abraham, Orpheus, Confucius, and Zoroaster. It talks about Hanok, Trismegistus, Moses, Kabbalism, the Sephiroth, the mystery of Thebes, Eleusis, Gerber, Arpharius, Arabs, Jews, Hindus, Christians, Plutarch, Plato, Aristotle, I think I've mentioned that a couple of times, the Zohar, Talmud, the priests of Egypt, Thomas Aquinas, Minerva, Osiris, Isis, Brahma, Maya, Hindus, Zeds, Bactrians, Persians, Ring Veda, Sadhitha, Phoenicians, sacred geometry, which is the math of it, the Star of Solomon, Nyaya, philosophers, obviously Eastern philosophy, the Absolute, the Holy Word, prophecy, oracles. The Rose Cross is part of the Rosicrucians, so the ancient mystical order of Rosicrucians, and their symbol is the Rose Cross. Funny enough, is my mom's name is Rose. Christ rose from the dead, which is kind of funny. God does have a sense of humor in the midst of all the suffering and pain. My mom's name is Rose, but my grandmother on my father's side, who lived to 100 years, which is very powerful and mystical, she has an interesting bloodline I'll talk about. Her name is also Rose. So I'm born of two roses. On this slide over here, the three, that's the Rosicrucians, the Rose Cross. The second one is the Order of Malta, and I am Maltese, and I'll go into that a little bit more. And then you have the Knights Templars. That's actually where Friday the 13th comes from, Friday, October 13th, 1307. And I will kind of go into this, but I want to show you the entanglement. Because imagine if you do all the work and you actually go into the depths, you splice time, and then you entangle yourself, and then you have your compass and protractor. And this is basically the great work. It's basically heaven and earth, the multiverse in our universe, the two into one, and it's coming together, okay? And I've talked about everything in our world can be measured and quantified and judged. We live in a dimension of time. Think of the multiverse or heaven or God as the things that are eternal, infinite, and timeless. And those things can't be measured or quantified or judged, okay? So how do you merge those two worlds? You're basically talking about the infinite, the eternal, and the timeless with the temporal, the finite, and time. You're talking about oneness, and that's why it is oneness, because the eternal, infinite, and timeless can only be expressed through oneness. The second that you have a secondary point, you can start measuring, counting, judging, and quantifying. Okay, so how do you merge oneness, the eternal, with duality, with time? The way to do it is a singularity. So you think of a black hole, and basically somebody would have to create a singularity and then merge the two worlds together. This picture really quickly, I'll bring it a little bit closer. black hole and white hole, it says nothing in and nothing out. Okay. Now, most people think that that means nothing can get in and nothing can come out. And what I'm saying, it's the opposite. It's actually nothing is what can get in and nothing is what can get out. So I don't think I have a picture in front of me here. Yes, I do. Sorry. I'll make to jump off camera. I'm going to touch on this symbol in a little while, because if you take the protractor and the compass, you draw the square, you have your right angles. This is oneness, the circle. So this is oneness. You have -1, you have +1, you have the root of +1, and you have the root of -1. You can't solve a negative. You can't root a negative. It's called I, the impossible number. Over here, though, this is Ein Sof. It's another name for God, and it means nothingness without end. So the top one is transcendence, the bottom half is immanence, and it's basically, imagine Earth is a reflection of heaven, okay? And that's basically what we're showing. The bottom half is either the illusion of the world or the unsolvable equation, because you can't root a negative, okay? So nothingness without end. Okay, so back to what I was saying, nothing can get in and nothing can get out, okay? You're not nothing, you're you. And forget about the physical you, it's inside, it's you quantify yourself. So when you say I, because we all say I, so don't worry about what comes next, whether it's white or black, Muslim, Christian, Protestant, Catholic, Sunni, Shiite, tall, short, happy, sad, this, that, whatever. I'm Canadian, I'm American, I'm whatever you want to put. It's the I. The second you basically say I, you've quantified yourself, and now you exist within this dimension of time. Okay? So, trying to get back all into this. So now, imagine you go so deep within that you dissolve the self, you kind of quantum entangle yourself, and that's the one person that's here to make the revelation. Okay? So what I know about Freemasonry is you have to believe in a higher power, higher intelligence, or God, but they'll swear you in on any book. So whether it's the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't matter what religion or faith you're from, it's them coming together. On the opposite side, think about religion. It's all about division. I'm right, everyone else is wrong. That's pretty much every religion there is. So the religious world, the external world, is all about division, and everyone's been divided and building, it's almost a pie and everyone has their own slice, but they think that their slice is the entirety of the pie, which is the illusion. Masonic and secret society, they're about bringing everyone together. And that's what that oneness is from there. Okay. So I'm going to just get grounded for a second, because I've kind of gone off in a lot of different shoots. So I'm kind of going to try to tie this back in. So nobody knows what the mystery is. One person's going to figure it out, tap in, that person's going to reveal themselves. So I'm saying it's two worlds coming together. You're waiting for the same person. It doesn't matter if you're thinking light and dark, white and black, up and down. It's all one universe. It's all one truth. So back to the theory of oneness. Here we go. Say there's you, and you come up with a theory of oneness, a unified field theory, a universal field theory that unites the whole universe, all time and space, all our laws of physics, all our people, math, history, science, philosophy. You unify the entire universe, okay? But if there's you and your theory of oneness, the one thing you haven't unified is yourself. So your theory fails. The only way to come up with a theory of oneness is if you become the theory of oneness, because your theory would have to unify you. You can't unify the whole universe, multiverse, and everything, and then you be standing on the outside. That's not oneness, okay? What that means, and this is part of the reason that I know it's me. The two reasons I know it's me is because I know it's all of you, and because I know it's you, I know it's me, because you're not doing anything about it. The other reason is that there's only one person that's going to come up with a theory of oneness, because once they become it, they splice time and they end the world. Not physically, not like the apocalypse where everyone thinks everyone's going to die. It ends the world as we know it. It ends the broken world. It ends the world by time and brings in the eternal, infinite, and timeless. It doesn't mean you'll have to go to church. It doesn't mean we all think the same, talk the same, walk the same. Oneness can be expressed eternally, infinitely, and timelessly. It's magical, okay? So, you're all waiting for the same person. Religion's the external world. Imagine mysticism is the internal world. And that's the mystery. And that's how you would find it. So all the stuff that I talked about, all these different words that I've said, that's basically my journey. Okay. So I'm going to show this board quick. You can do this for yourself. If it was you, if you're, and again, that theory of oneness, that unified universal field theory, that's basically your avatar, your Neo from the Matrix, your Messiah, your Christ, your Jedi, master of the mystical arts. It doesn't matter how you want to describe it. That would be you. You would have spliced time and would be with your consciousness. So it would be your life that entangles itself with the entire world story. So imagine you take a piece of paper, I'm going to show you in a second, write all the books you've read, all the movies you've watched, your favorite songs, all your experiences, everything you've ever learned, everything you've ever thought. Not just simple thoughts, but think your deepest, most profound truths. Okay? That's what I'm going to go into a second. So I'm just reminding myself is that this entire universe is truth. And I'm going to explain it. The only thing that's actually not truth is humans, our minds. So this is basically my board. And this is all the things, my movie books, everything I've ever studied. So all the mystical things that I talked about. I'm going to rip through a bunch of the people that I've read and studied so you can kind of mirror it with this, with all the different degrees. My favorite and the world teacher was Jiddu Krishnamurti. And that's where I would center pretty much all my conversation about. This is about the great work, the union of opposites. Well, Krishnamurti talked about the observer and the observed, the thinker and the thought, the experiencer and the experience, how we see them as separate, but they're one. And you can't think they're one with thought because that's the separation. It's the actual in-depth knowingness, okay? So Krishnamurti, Osho, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar of the Art of Living Foundation is somebody that I've studied with personally. Now, whether you're religious or not, consider there's been enlightened spiritual masters, Buddha, Krishna, Christ. Have you ever met one? Have you ever actually sat in the presence of an enlightened spiritual master? Not only is there potential for the transfer of consciousness and to be around that enlightenment, but there's also things like grace and divinity. And it's something to experience. So I've actually spent time with and studied under His Holiness Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. We've had multiple conversations and some interesting interactions that I'll probably delve into another time. So then there's Ramana Maharshi, obviously Krishna and Arjuna, Vashitha and Rama, Zoroaster, Confucius, Nietzsche, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Ken Wilber, Alan Watts, obviously more recently Sadhguru, Mahavira, Guru Nanak, Swami Prabhupada, who translated the Bhagavad Gita for me, Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, Hazrat, Inyak Khan, Joseph Campbell. That one's significant. I will talk about Joseph Campbell. He was a mystic, a historian, philosopher. He went all around the world, studied all cultures, religions, everyone. And he wrote a book, Hero with 1,000 Faces. So he explains that we're all a hero, and we're all on our hero journey. And he explains it through 1,000 different people in this book. So you can think of like Superman, Batman, your superheroes. Again, I said, your Jedi's, master of mystical arts, and then your Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, the people I've read, mythology, Hercules, Zeus, and then you can go into obviously all your ancient Egyptian, all different stuff, indigenous, native, all different cultures, religions. But he basically takes you through the hero journey through 1,000 people. This is significant for your sci-fi Star Wars fans. Before George Lucas did Star Wars, he talked to Joseph Campbell. And that's Eastern philosophy. That's where the Force, the Jedi become one with the Force. Be careful of the dark side. This is where it comes from. Imagine you tap in with your consciousness, and because this is all your life in a conscious experience, imagine you do the battle between heaven and earth, and you actually become the hero with 1,000 faces. Okay? I'm jumping all over the place here, and I apologize, but it's just so much information, and I have to get it out because this is actually going to become a legal case, and I really need to protect myself. So in another video, I talked about not just the yin yang, but the East and West. Okay, so the Western world is your, especially Catholicism, Christianity is like God, the devil, Satan, and Archangel Michael, and that story. The East is the chakra system. Okay, so it's the energy centers, and there's the 7 chakras. There's the crown chakra, the root chakra, the sacral. I always forget the third one. Then there's the heart chakra, the throat chakra, the third eye, and then back to the crown being God. At the crown chakra, they talk about the 1,000 lotuses. Now, that's Godhead. So you're talking magic or divinity. So imagine tapping into the 1,000 lotuses, and this is comical, but imagine those 1,000 lotuses, you make yourself the hero with 1,000 faces. So going back into my board and all the stuff here, forget about Neo and the Jedi and Master of the Mystical Arts, Doctor Strange. I always make the joke, you can call me Doctor Stranger, but my first hero wasn't Mickey Mouse, it was Mighty Mouse. So here I come to save the day. And not only that, but I remember he was always in yellow with a red cape. But every once in a while, and this might go into the Mandela effect, my favorite is they always had an episode once in a while, not always, once in a while, where he was in blue, kind of the baby blue that Superman would wear in the red cape. And that was my favorite Mighty Mouse. One of my second heroes was He-Man, Master of the Universe, King of Heaven and Earth. So Christ is part of the story that I'm about to tell you, but it's only part. And as big of a part as most of you think it is, there's a lot more to this, okay? Christ is the part that unlocks this and brings, not power, because I didn't come here to take power, I came here to take responsibility. I didn't come to rule, I came to serve. I'm not here to tell you what to think, what to do, what to believe. I've said this before, my responsibility isn't telling you who you are. My responsibility is to tell you who I am. And that basically ends the world as we know it, because it would basically splice time. But imagine becoming the hero with 1,000 faces and using that consciousness to map out heaven and earth. And again, my initials are actually Marc-Andre Porlier, they spell map. My father was Maurice Andre Porlier, which also spells map. You think of the Father, the Son, and you can intersect those two. I can go over there, I can go right here, there. Okay. That cross. You can say it's the intersection of time and space, heaven and earth, whatever, but you basically hang yourself on the cross and you basically end time, okay? So going back to this picture here, I'm going to bring the East and West together very fast. I've done it in a little bit more detail in another video, but you have your 7 chakras, okay? Now imagine the Western story. So you have God, okay? Then there's the fall. Okay, I'll do it with this hand. So you have God, then there's the fall, and you have hell, which is the red chakra, Satan, evil, that energy, okay? Really quick is when you flip the word evil, it spells live. And when you flip the word devil, it spells lived. So it's about life and it's about past, it's dimension of time. So you have God, there's the fall, the red chakra, you have Satan, you have hell. The next chakra is the sacral chakra, which is the sexual chakra. So the Satan is born into the world as the devil. And he wants money, power, and sexual gratification, okay? The third chakra, it's more about friendship, but think of Lucifer. Now everyone thinks Lucifer's still dark and evil and all that stuff, but Lucifer actually means bringer of light or bringer of dawn. So God, the fall, Satan, hell, born into this world as the devil, your sexual chakra, he moves into the Lucifer, which is the bringer of light. The heart chakra, I want you to think of the person yourself. So whatever your name is, my name's Mark, you can think of Jesus, or you can think of Siddhartha. So Jesus, when he becomes enlightened, becomes Christ. And that's the throat chakra because he speaks the word of God. Or Siddhartha, when he became enlightened, he becomes Buddha. So Buddha means awakened one, Christ means anointed one. I want you to think in terms of superheroes, Thor. For him to pick up the hammer, he has to be worthy. And worthy is kind of where you get the anointed and the ability to speak the word of God or to pick up the hammer to have that power. What does it mean to be worthy? Imagine a frequency or a vibration, since this whole world is energy or consciousness. And imagine you have to tune into that frequency. I've referenced connecting to Wi-Fi or phoning somebody. If you don't put in the right password or the right number, you don't connect with that frequency and you don't tap in. So you would have to be worthy, okay? So God, you have Satan, the devil, Lucifer is the person, or Jesus becomes enlightened. He becomes Christ because he speaks the word of God. The third eye would be Archangel Michael because that's who comes to battle the dragon in the book of Revelations. It's all one revolution. It's just like the yin-yang symbol. It's just like the chakra system. It's the Sephiroth, Kabbalism. It's all one revolution. It's all one truth. It's just expressed differently. So whether you want to say God, energy, the universe, Allah, Brahma, Shiva, Yahweh, it doesn't, without disrespecting the names, because I know they're sacred to people, but it doesn't matter what name you choose. The only thing that matters is the truth. So it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the truth is. And then we move towards the truth. The problem is what if somebody's already there and you can't recognize it? The reason you wouldn't be able to recognize it is because if you can't see the truth within yourself, you're not going to see it through me or anyone else. It's that simple. This is one truth. If this is a conscious universe and this is my dream, none of you, and there's a million of you here, none of you are in my dream. You're all me. This is all my consciousness. So now think of this as God's dream. And there's 8 billion of us. We would all be him, or the essence or the expression of him, because it would be his consciousness. Okay? So back to the idea of truth. God is truth. Okay? You can say energy. If you're atheist, it's fine. If you're looking at it, I'm going to go this way and I'm going to point to the very first box. It's just blank. It's just white. That's the beginning. So in the beginning was God. All God, only God. There's nothing else but God. I've said to Christians and Catholics, religious people, what did God make everything out of? And they're like, oh, it's God. He can make it out of anything. There's no such thing as anything. And there's no such thing as nothing. There's only this one energy, this one source. So scientifically, if you are atheist, that's fine. Energy can't be created or destroyed. So there would be a fixed amount of energy and everything would come of that energy. So imagine if your dream or his dream, it would all be coming from his or your consciousness. So it would all be. So there's nothing in this consciousness that would be not you or not God. It's not like you're not in my dream with your consciousness. There's not an empty space that's you or that's something else. Even if you look in the stars in the sky and like in my dream right now, the empty space here, it's not empty. It's still my consciousness. Okay. So imagine God equals truth and imagine this is all truth. The only thing that's not is you. Not physically you, because that's still part of the physical, the material creation. It's just your thought, your ego, your sense of self, whatever you think you are. When you're about to die, you're not worried about your ear, your elbow, your toe, or your finger. It's the you. It's your experience of your essentially identity, but again, not the gender identity that a lot of people are talking about. It's the I. That's what you're afraid of dying. It's the knowingness of yourself. Okay? So now, everything's this one energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. I've talked about if I have free will. How do I have free will? I can go hug somebody or I can go kick somebody. I can do good or I can do evil. I have this free will. But it takes energy to make a choice. If there's only that one energy in the beginning, that energy would have had to given itself to me, relinquished itself to me, or I use the word surrender. My entire project is called the surrender equation. And basically what I'm saying is I've all surrendered to God because in the beginning, God surrendered himself to us. And if you mirror that image, you basically close the circle and you reconnect or re-entangle yourself. So Albert Einstein said, you can't solve a problem on the same level of thinking that that problem was created on. Every single problem in the world has been created by humans. It's all been created by thought. Thought is actually the problem because thought is a reaction. There's God. It takes you time to hear that, to see it, and then to react emotionally or intellectually. Eternal now, there's you in your dimension of time. Measuring, judging, and quantifying. You can't quantify that. You can only become it. When you die, okay, you go back to that source. Spirituality and mysticism is about so deep within that you dissolve the self and you die within. So in the same way that when you physically die, your relationship with time ends and you go back, if you die within, you also end your relationship with time. But you're still alive. You're now an avatar. You're now a superhero and potentially a messiah. So remember, if this is my dream, it's all my consciousness. If this is God's dream, it's all his consciousness. It's all one energy. The only thing that's separate, because it's all the will of God. The only thing separate isn't my ears and my arms and it's just my free will. So imagine like a pool ball. So imagine that's my ego and there's like a pool ball in my head. So everything's God, everything's consciousness, everything's the universe. And then there's just my free will. If you look in a cartoon, when they show the bubble where the cartoon's talking or thinking, that's all you are. That's the illusion of self. So now watch this. So here you are, you're in your head. That's yourself. Okay. Imagine you go so deep within like Buddha that you surrender the self, or you take this pool ball out of your head. Now you have an empty space. But there's no such thing as empty space. There's no such thing as nothing. There's no such thing as anything. There's just this one energy. If your will leaves, that space immediately has to be filled. The only thing to fill it with is the will of God, or energy. Okay? The energy from the beginning, the source. You can't say that this universe doesn't have intelligence to it. Okay? So you surrender the self, and now you become a vessel for the infinite, the eternal, the timeless. And if somebody was to bring that in one moment, they would splice time, they would end time. It might take you time to hear it, to believe it, to react, but it's final. God does not exist within this dimension of time, even though he is the entirety of it. It's like when you're dreaming, you can't, your sleeping self in bed can't get up and enter into your dream. That's important because a lot of people say, why doesn't God do anything? He can't. That's not me placing limitations on God. That's God almost placing the limitations on himself. This is a really cool story. It's a little video I did about 15 years ago now, probably. But there's a story of a man, okay? And he's looking out into the world, and he's looking at all the pain, the suffering, the evil, the darkness. And he looks up at God pleading. He's like, God. He's like, why don't you do anything? And God smiles, and he looks down, and he says, I did do something. I made you. Imagine if this is a dream, and we need to wake up. Specifically, one of us needs to wake up because we need the singularity. Now, I have so many, spiritual friends, hippies, Reiki masters, all these new age people. They're all like, oh, we're all one. And, they go hug the tree and lick the grass, and they all wear white, and they think, they're conscious. There's a group in Toronto called the Toronto Conscious Society. I actually call them the Toronto Unconscious Society. Most spiritual people start from the center themselves and then project their spirituality outward. That's bullshit. Spirituality is about going so deep within that you dissolve the self. It's not you go get your Lululemon clothes and you go do yoga and, you wave your hands and you think you're spiritual. Bullshit. It's a destructive process. Okay? Jordan Peterson says the hero has to be the monster. And that's true. You can't just be good and light. It doesn't mean you have to be evil, but you have to go into the depth, into the mystery, and you have to know what darkness is. And I'm so glad I said that because there's a song by Johnny Cash. This is before my time. I'm not a country guy, but I do respect Johnny Cash. Oh, geez, I can't think of the song. Oh, God's Gonna Cut You Down. Now they do a video because I guess Johnny Cash was getting older, and as a tribute, they bring in all these like stars, like whether movie stars, singers, and they do the song, and they kind of put in all these different people and splice them in. There's one point where there's Keith Richards. In the beginning was God and Keith Richards, and Jay-Z. And Keith Richards is he shows his ring. You can look it up. And he's got like the skull and bones, and he's got I think it's the Masonic symbols or whatever. And what the line in the song says, it's about man being against fellow man, but what was done in the darkness will be brought to the light. And this is it. Yes, I'm the Son of God, Jesus Christ. But so you know, I was what was done in the darkness. What was done in the darkness will be brought to the light. This is now the truth. This is now the revelation. You're working through the filter of time. You're a reaction to the truth. Your perception. It's basically like looking in a mirror and seeing the reflection. It's opposite. The problem is that everything you see in a mirror, it's real. I'm looking, there's one right ahead of me. It's all real, but it's opposite. So if you're making your decisions within the dimension of time using your thought and perception, it's fucking upside down. It's like looking at something, I think optically, like the picture's actually inverted. And that's basically where we're at. Remember I said Earth is a reflection of heaven, or the universe is a reflection of the multiverse. As above, so below. As within, so without. This is the mystery. To solve the mystery is the great work. Okay? This is kind of fun because this wasn't planned at all. So you have the compass and the protractor. That gives you the symbol up there that I told you about. -1, +1, root of +1, root of -1. This is so weird. So that circle is oneness. Now, The starting point there is your birth, and then you go through time and you die. It's only at those two endpoints, before birth and after death, that you experience oneness. Your whole life experience is through time, even though you might have some glimpses, and I know some people have some things that have happened, unless you splice time. And that's what that line in the middle is. It's basically splicing time. Okay? So, that's a picture there. That's good. Now I can explain it. Okay, so I'm trying to move it. There you go. So now, birth, death, you're all moving through time. One of us splices time. This picture is really cool. That big circle is like your normal person who works with thought, ego, perception. That's mind, okay? An enlightened spiritual master is somebody that's surrendered their mind. So they're no mind. They're egoless or selfless. So a normal person to a religious, like a Buddha, Krishna, or Jesus, religious people think that they're close to them, and you're not. You're the opposite. You're all mind. They've completely dissolved their mind. They're no mind. You're not close. You're opposite. That's why all your thoughts about Christ and all the Krishna, Buddha, it's garbage. I do not care how many times you read the Bible, you have no clue, because you're basically looking in a mirror. You're the opposite. You're the reflection. You're quantifying. He's not. Everything you say about him, even if you say the nicest things about him, it's bullshit. Your perceptions and your thoughts about Christ is actually standing in the way of you seeing him or him revealing himself. They accuse Jews of crucifying Jesus. Don't worry, Christians and Catholics will probably, well, unless it's Zionists because they're killing everyone, but Christians and Catholics will probably kill him this time because they're not ready. And when I or he shows up, you're going to apply your perceptions and your thoughts on it, which is blocking it. That's why Jesus said, do not judge. It's not judging each other, it's judging him. Even if you judge him positively, you're still judging him. Remember, cast the first stone? All a quantum physicist is saying is cast the first particle. Because once you quantify it, judge or measure it, that energy collapses down to a density. When you don't judge it, quantify it, or measure it, it's a wave. It transcends time and space. Quantum physics and religion is now saying the same thing. Okay? So, imagine somebody splices time, and now they touch on I, which is the impossible number. Who am I? It's the unsolvable equation. But imagine one person solves it. Okay? So now I'm just going to kind of go into my life a little bit because this is kind of what we're talking about. So this one is when I was 50 years old. So this is 50 years. The split right down the middle is 25 years. I was 25 years old. That was the year 2000. Okay? So 1999 into 2000 is when I was 25. I love this because a lot of this has to do with like movies. I've explained some other videos how it's all a singularity, so it's all an expression of oneness. In 1999, two movies came out. One was Fight Club, which is about hitting rock bottom and psychosis. And then the other one was The Matrix, which is about becoming the one and becoming Neo. So you can see the splice. This is the beginning of the third day. Okay, so we think of Jesus, Easter, he gets crucified, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's the third day. There's a quote in the Bible, in Peter, that says, 1 day for God is like 1,000 years. So imagine you're the Son of God. Is your day going to be 24 hours or is it 1,000 years? So the first day is 1,000 years, second day is 2,000 years. People say the third day is 3,000 years, but you don't celebrate Easter Sunday night. It's the beginning of the third day. So 1,000, 2,000. The beginning of the third day was January 1st of 2000. That was when Y2K was supposed to be, or when it was. When everyone thought the computers were going to crash, I had a drug-induced psychosis. My mind crashed. And that lines up the beginning of the third day. So back to this picture, because I kind of lost my train of thought, but it brought me back. So mind is normal person. No mind is an enlightened person. A crazy person is out of their mind. Okay? This line here is the line between heaven and earth, or our multiverse and the multiverse in our universe. So everything down here is a dimension of time and above isn't. So everything here within the dimension of time. So an enlightened spiritual master, like Buddha, goes so deep that he surrenders his mind. A crazy person loses their mind. They're both out of their mind. That's a singularity. One, the enlightened master, he's in silence, so he's not quantifying information. To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders, or be still and know that I am. The crazy person lost his mind. So he's not quantifying it properly, but he's still out of his mind. Okay. In the year 2000, I had a drug-induced psychosis. So imagine that I couldn't see heaven or the multiverse, but imagine because I was a singularity in the sense that I was out of my mind, imagine they could see me and see through me and see the entire world, everything I've studied, the thousands of books, the thousands of movies, all my experience, my knowledge of the whole world. Imagine heaven or God saw it through my eyes and saw that it was good. So now I lost my mind here. Almost imagine I never came back, even though I have, but I also had like 3 or 4 psychoses on the way. The one was a drug-induced psychosis. I was just smoking weed oil, but it was made with acetone. I didn't know that it was processed, and acetone is nail polish remover, and it wasn't made properly, so it got sealed in. So for 2 weeks, I was basically smoking what I thought was weed, but it was nail polish remover. And I had a wicked drug-induced psychosis, very dangerous. I walked across the 401 in Toronto, was writing on tables, writing on walls, my mind completely spliced. Even the doctors were like, nobody's mind fragments this fast, and nobody can figured it out until I kind of put it all together. Just the fact that I was the only one who knew about, the weed oil and stuff like that. So imagine now that this is a new circle, because now imagine that this is kind of my life, because I started really questioning deeply. I was already looking into things like Confucius and Buddha and Zoroaster, mystical stuff. But in the year 2000, actually in the hospital where I had my psychosis, a lady gave me the book Krishnamurti, who was the world teacher. And that's kind of what, got everything going. So that's the beginning of the 3rd day. Now, Revelations is 2012 is here. It happened to me in 2014. Okay. So I've referenced the Mayan calendar up here. It almost looks like a staircase. It's very faint. Sorry, Jesus. Yeah, right there. So what it's saying is, what used to take billions of years to happen, whether it was the first element or bacteria or whatever it was, started taking hundreds of millions of years. And then what used to take hundreds of millions of years started taking millions of years. And then hundreds of thousands, and it goes down to like, your years, months, weeks, days, hours, minutes, seconds. Everything is speeding up except human consciousness, which is why we're about at the point where we're going to destroy ourselves when you think of the doomsday clock and stuff like that. So just look at it. You think about 200 years ago, we're riding horseback, right? Now, then there's the train, then there's a car, now we got planes, we got rocket ships, and we're in outer space. We're just talking, mailing letters, and then there's a telegraph, and then there's the telephone, and then there's a cell phone, and then there's sonar and satellites and the internet and all this other forms of communication. Everything is speeding up, speeding up, speeding up. John Lennon did a song called Instant Karma. Instant Karma is going to get you. It's not just karma anymore. We're no longer moving through time. We are at the singularity. And be careful, because that has nothing to do with me. But if there's instant karma and everything is magnified right now because the time we're in, or the lack of time we're in, it's all coming together. But because human consciousness hasn't sped up, we're about to destroy ourselves. If this is the singularity, imagine, I don't care if it's me or you right now. If it's you, it's you. You're the center of the universe. We all are, but if you create the singularity, it'd be you. You're the center of everything. You basically can explain everything. I always found this so interesting because everyone talks about Jesus. If Jesus showed up, don't you think he'd be able to tell you who he is? Don't you think he'd be able to tell you how he connected the whole story? The fact that he never spoke 2,000 years ago is kind of comical. So everything's speeding up. You're getting to this one point. The book of Revelations, the apocalypse, everyone thinks the end of the world. It's the ending of time. It's the ending of days. And by days, I don't mean the world ends. I mean the S, the plural. End of days to one day. Because remember, one day for God is like 1,000 years. So imagine if the Messiah, the person, shows up and creates one perfect day, one perfect 24-hour day for all of humanity. Then they have the power to turn that one day into 1,000 years. And that's the prophecy of 1,000 years of peace. Okay? So now, what happened in 2014, I've explained this in more detail in other videos. I'm at 54 minutes right now, so I'm probably not going to go into it a lot. But I basically met Archangel Michael. I can go into the whole story, but it wasn't a flash of light. It was darkness. It was almost like a plate opened up in front of me that was dark. It was darkness behind because it was like 5 a.m. I wish I would have had time to kind of look at it and see the background, but it was so urgent. It just flashed. Darkness. Nothing was there. This is going to sound so ridiculous. I didn't see anything. But I didn't think this. I didn't say this. It came out of like almost like I threw it up. You know when you just blow chunks and it just comes up. And it's like, holy fuck, that's Archangel Michael. I wasn't religious. I actually hated religion. It's not something that I would have projected. So when it came out, it was so real. And I asked the question, justice or peace? That's a big conversation. I'm going to save that for another time. Archangel Michael said he's justice. I claim peace. Poof, it disappeared. This is Revelations. Archangel Michael came to battle the dragon. And it's funny because he didn't come to see Jesus. He came to battle the dragon. So think of the dark side, the internal side. I'm not talking evil, but I'm just talking about like the unknown, the mystery. So Archangel Michael comes to battle the dragon. In Revelations, okay, it's by St. John the Evangelist, the school I went to. I'm kind of shooting myself or sticking my foot in my mouth here. I had some problems in 2017, and I knew something was going on. I couldn't finalize it. I was basically homeless, no friends, no family, walking around. Nobody wanted to talk to me, but I knew that I had seen something. Going back 25 years, I was with a friend of mine. Her name is Val. I lived right at Allen Road in Lawrence. It was a brand new condo. I'm driving out one day with her, a friend of mine. I'm coming out of the parking lot. It's about 100, 150 feet, and there's a green light. So my light was green the whole time. I'm making a right turn. Now, Lawrence is a major street and the Allen Road's going onto the highway, but I have a green light and I'm turning right. I don't really even have to look anywhere because I have the right of way. But as I'm driving up, this isn't about me claiming enlightenment. I think I figured something out. I think I figured out truth. So I'm talking to my friend Val, who's native and studied with shamans. She's a Reiki master who's energy work. And she's also Wicca, which is, people think of witchcraft, but think of like nature and the universe and holistic practice. So very intuitive. She's also a very serious child abuse survivor. So there's a lot of energy there. As we're driving out, I'm like, Val, I think I figured something out. This is 25 years ago. I'm like, I think I caught a glimpse of something. I actually think I know what truth is. I know this sounds stupid, but I said, if I figured out what I think I figured out, they're going to kill me. You know, because you think of Jesus, you think of Socrates, whether you're going, you know, like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Malcolm X, John F. Kennedy, John Lennon, they usually kill someone, people of truth. But I'm like, I think I figured something out. And if I did, they're going to kill me. Now, these were her exact words. So I'm driving up and about to make my right turn on a green light. She's like, Mark, if it's meant to be, you have to know you're protected. And then a car goes by at like 60, 80 kilometers an hour. He ran a red light. I would have been T-boned. I probably would have been dead or seriously crippled. So I've known for a long time that I caught a glimpse of something. I'm not claiming enlightenment because I haven't let go yet. And the reason is imagine right now me or you becomes enlightened. So, you know, become enlightened, peace, love, and that's awesome. But how many enlightened people have there been? And we're still in conflict and the world hasn't been solved. So imagine you become enlightened right now. Awesome. But imagine before you become enlightened, you realize you're king of heaven and earth and you own every church on the planet. You're the entirety of the Masonic empire. You're the revelation. And then you become enlightened. Now you're a philosopher king. Now it's like Buddha, Krishna, or Christ, or Confucius. When I say a king of heaven and earth, I'm going to leave China out of this for now. I'll leave North Korea out too, just so nothing weird happens. But to China, the longest book that I have ever read is a 900-page book on Confucius. When I was given this book, I thought it was Confucius's sayings. So I'm like all excited about it. And it was the story of his life. 900 pages, tissue paper thin. And I finished it. Once I start certain things and I'm like, and I saw his life. So we're clear, because I know China being communist and, atheists probably not believing in God. I do recognize Confucius as my master, in the same way that I would recognize Buddha, Krishna, Krishnamurti, Rama, different, Guru Nanak, Mahavira. I do recognize Confucius as my master. So don't think that I'm overstepping you when I make the claims that I'm making. Because if you're all Chinese, you can attain that level. And if you attain that level, I would bow before you. Okay, just so we're clear. But I still do right now at this point, whether Lao Tzu also, Buddha, but I do recognize Confucius as my master. So I'm going to put that off to the side right now really quickly. Getting back to where I was. The book of Revelations talks about, St. John is who wrote it. They talk about Nicolaitans. There's the dragon, the red dragon, seven-headed dragon. There's a pregnant woman from 3.5 years before who goes off to have her kid and the child. There's the mark of the beast, 666. This isn't about perfection. It's about truth. The reason you crucified Jesus 2,000 years ago is because he tried to be perfect. This is about truth, okay? When all this happened with Archangel Michael, it was by Dundas and Bloor, it was by Bloor and Symington in Toronto. My friend from elementary school opened a yoga, fitness, and martial arts studio and called it Dragon Fitness. Our dragon was pink. We paid someone $400 to paint a 4-foot dragon on our wall, and he painted it red. So I woke up every day for 1.5 years, and I'm like, fucking red dragon. $400, an artist on a white wall, and he fuchsia, pink. So you have the dragon. You have the red dragon. We hired a martial artist from the States, and he was at UFC 3. His name is Henry Chapman, Seven Dragons Martial Arts. There's your seven-headed dragon. Our yoga teacher was a girl that I met 3.5 years before when she was pregnant, and then she went off to have her kid. At the time, I had gone bankrupt. The last 3 digits of my last credit card was 666. The mark, my name is Mark, mark of the beast. The definition of sin is missing the mark. Imagine I spliced time, and it's not that I was perfect. Imagine I figured out the truth and almost the line of what to cross and what not to cross. So in August of 2014, I see Archangel Michael. Archangel Michael comes to battle the dragon. This goes to the kind of what I was saying before about God, the Satan, and it all being one revolution. In Jewish mysticism, Kabbalism, they have the Sephiroth. There's one part, and I've heard it described as the flash, meaning, when Moses has his vision, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has his vision. It's like they splice time, and there's the flash. Whether you're talking to the burning bush, whether they see Gabriel or Angel Gabriel, that Abraham and all those different things. So imagine I splice time. I see Archangel Michael. He sees me. I didn't worship God. In the beginning, I told that there's this all-knowing God, omnipotent, omnipresent, all this, but all-knowing. If an all-knowing God, and that's the only energy in the beginning, creates murderers, rapists, pedophiles, the devil, and Satan himself, knowingly, that would make God the most evil entity in the universe. This is how I was raised. And I'm not going to get into the legalities of my legal case, being circumcised and all the stuff and the brainwashing and that. But you asked me to believe in the most evil entity in the world. But he's not. It's a reflection. It's through the filter of time. It's the illusion. It's the matrix. But logically, if you take the story and apply it to this world, God would be the most evil thing in the universe. So I declared war on God. I literally wanted to kill God because I looked at this world. How dare you? But imagine it's not real. Imagine it's just a dream. Imagine this is God experiencing himself. In the beginning is God. Cover your ears, your eyes, close off all your senses, and you're inside your head, and you're in darkness. It's not just darkness in the void, because you're also there as the witness. You're not just the thinker, because you can be aware of your thoughts. That's self-awareness. So you're the thinker, but you're also the witness. So imagine it's almost like being paralyzed. If you think of the movie The Outsider, where let's do it for Johnny, he's basically lying there. I mean, he can still talk and communicate, but imagine you're like Helen Keller. Imagine you had no senses and you're paralyzed. It would be hell. It would be like tormented. You would just be inside this void of darkness with consciousness. So then imagine you have a dream. Imagine literally this one right here. On this side. Jesus Christ, I gotta go over here. I'm doing two things at once. There you go. Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago, moving, and then 6,000 years ago, they say Adam and Eve, only off by 13.7 something billion years. But this whole time, what I say to scientists and quantum physicists is for the first 13 billion years, there was nobody there. There was nobody observing or witnessing or quantifying it. So how do you know that time existed? How do you know that whatever portion of that 13 billion years wasn't functioning as the wave function? The eternal, the infinite, and the timeless, not quantifiable. You don't know when time began. So I'm not, dismissing the measurement. But when I have a dream, I create a whole universe instantaneously at whatever point the dream starts. You guys are missing it. A quantum physicist is trying to analyze this world. They strip it all the way down from your matter to your, atoms, protons, electrons, quarks, strings. I don't know the exact order. It goes down to nothingness. Remember NSOP, nothingness without end? This is built on phantom energy. An atom is 99.9999% empty space. This is a dream. Now think about it. If you have a dream, say in your dream you kill 100 people. You don't wake up in the morning and go to the police station and turn yourself in and say, oh my God, I killed 100 people last night in my dream. Lock me up for the rest of my life. It's a dream. It's an illusion. If this is God's dream, it's not real as it seems to us. When we wake up, we're going to create what's actually real. And that's your 1,000 years of peace. Okay. I've said a lot. I'm an hour and 7 minutes. A lot of people aren't going to watch it. I'm going to give you the final entanglement point. That's the Maltese cross. I'm Maltese. It's a prime number cross. That means if you wrap numbers around from 1 to 24 and then to 48, all the prime numbers come off the 8 points. You can see they're circled, with the exception of the 1, 2, and 3. Well, the 1 is, but when I'm doing all this research and I'm just happen to be looking and I'm looking at the Maltese cross, I'm Maltese. You think of the Order of Malta. I play hockey. If it was your dream and your soccer, baseball, remember, it's your consciousness. It becomes your story. You become the great work or the world story. I shoot left. I like shooting top right. That's my favorite corner. If you're going to hide the peanut butter or something, I would hide it in the top right corner. When I was looking at the numbers, I saw my mom's birthday, my dad's birthday, my birthday, my sister's birthday, the anniversary of Haile Selassie's death, which is August 27, 1975. I'm born August 27, 1974. He ended slavery August 27, 1942. This is numerology. It's not another point of the quantum entanglement. You would have to have an answer for everyone. And Rastafarians, a lot of them think that Haile Selassie is Christ. I've identified him as one of the three kings. He was an emperor for 44 years and died a week or two after I was born. I'll go into that more. So I see my birthday, my mom's, my dad's, my sister's. There was 25, 75, 25, 50, 75, and 100, which to me is math, obviously, percentages, and so forth, fractions. But there was also 49, 50, and 51. And I'm 51 right now. At first, I thought 49, 50, and 51 would represent almost democracy, because at 50 and then 51 is the win. This has been a 33-year journey, and that's why I know that we're here now. And there's so many more entanglement points. You don't have to believe this. What I need you to understand that is if this was you, you would have been left clues that related to you and your consciousness. This is the only part of the story that I'm sharing, is that if the universe or God left clues for me through my consciousness, these would be the clues. Now, again, my mom and dad are May 1st and May 3rd. So it's 5-1 and 5-3. but the number is 25. And this is significant. Remember the root? When you root 25, you get your 5. The other number is 49. When you root it, it's 7. My sister is 773, July of 1973. So the root is very significant. If you're not good at math, or if you don't know math, you wouldn't be able to unlock these clues. It's like your Da Vinci Code. I know that's comical, but what he says is if you had to leave yourself a secret over thousands of years, you can't bury it. You can't tell somebody. You can't buy something and think it's still going to be there. It would have to be left in symbols, because that would kind of go the test of time. So it's so funny is that I just keep looking into it, and then I see that the curve in here, the little curve of the Maltese cross, it's like some polar Cartesian equation, which I don't even understand. But at the very curve, it's the root of sine. Now, sine is S-I-N-E, but when you see it, it's the root, and it's capital S, capital I, capital N. And then the E's little in a small bracket. So it's like the root of sin. You can't root a negative number. So imagine evil when you flip it as live, and lived when you flip it as devil. God is oneness. There's no evil in heaven or the multiverse. It only comes through the filter of time. Evil only exists through humans. I know there's hurricanes and natural disasters and maybe a rabid dog, and leave that aside for a second, just it's too detailed. But imagine evil only comes through humans. It only comes through our thought, through our actions. Everything else is the will of God. When you get rid of your ego, it gets replaced. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So this is what I'm trying to say. It's all a mystery. And now the revelation is coming out, and I have all the entanglement points. Rose from the dead, born of a virgin. Don't think in time, think of the world story. I'm Virgo. That's the constellation of the Virgin. My initials, MP, match the Virgo symbol, which is like an MP. Mapped out heaven and earth. My dad's initials are mapped, so are mine. I already said Rose from the dead. The Rosicrucians. My mom's name is Rose. My grandmother on my dad's side lived to 100 years old. I'm not into bloodline stuff, but I know people are. My grandmother descended from Zachary Cloutier, Hillary Clinton, Queen Camilla, Justin and Pierre Trudeau. It goes so deep. It's not me just saying, not that, because that's Canada, the States, and Britain, okay? It's not just, Hillary Clinton's in my bloodline. Her best friend is Louise Penny, who is a famous Canadian author. I met a guy years ago named Doug Penny. It's her brother. I bumped into him or connected with him in Quebec. He was staying at his sister's house. She's a famous author. She's wealthy. She owns 2 beautiful kind of cottage homes with ponds in the backyard. We got to stay in one and hang out, and she lived in the other one. I'm not just related to Hillary Clinton. I know your best friend. I actually stayed in her house. She has no clue who I am. Dan Schulman, the Blue Jay guys, the Blue Jays are in the World Series right now. His dad used to be my dentist, Dr. Schulman. The Rogers family, Edward Rogers. It was under Ted Rogers, but Edward Rogers, your personal photographer, is my ex-girlfriend. I've actually been to your cottage and I've met you, okay? My ex-girlfriend, when we're talking about the Order of Malta and the Knights Templars, Friday the 13th, Friday, October 13th, 1307. Malta became a republic on Friday the 13th. Friday, December 13th, 1974. That's her birthday. Friday, December 13th, 1974. It's all entangled. I have all the story, all the clues. Again, I've told you the Virgo and the Virgin, the beginning of the third day, my psychosis, Y2K, Revelations, the dragon, the red dragon, the 7-headed dragon, St. John the Evangelist. It's the church I set on fire. Nicolaitans. I hate Nicolaitans. I hate Nicolaitans. I hate Nicolaitans. My sister's name's Nicole. She's put me in a mental institution multiple times. I have the entire entanglement of the story. King of heaven and earth, think of a chessboard. If there's 2 sides, there's always conflict. You have to trump the whole board. Donald Trump. The games I played as a kid. Chess, euchre, which is about Trump. A Bauer, by the way, is in German, it means a farmer. Bauer is also in hockey. You guys all know Bauer hockey skates being Canadian. Walking on water and water into wine. It's not about the walking and the wine. It's about the water. I'm Canadian. Canada has the most fresh water in the world. People say, can you walk on water? Yeah, it's called fucking hockey. And water into wine, water doesn't turn into wine, but you pour it on weeds. and that's marijuana. Pierre Trudeau and Justin Trudeau are part of my bloodline. In 1974, as a joke, when I knew that this was all true, I'm like, fuck, I wonder who the three kings were. This is the one point that I went looking for. Most people think is, oh, I can find this point and make it all like entanglement and synchronicities. I didn't go looking. These have been revealed to me over the years. But when I went looking as a joke, who are the three kings? And I'm like, okay, I'm born in 1974. If I happen to be Jesus Christ, who would be the three kings? You have to have an answer for everything. Rastafarians think that Haile Selassie is Christ. I just showed the alignment of the August 27th. I'm born August 27th, 74. He's murdered August 27th, 75. An emperor for 44 years. He got taken down a week or two after I was born. In 1974, the Prime Minister of Canada was Pierre Trudeau. So the three kings aren't actually kings. One's an emperor, one's a prime minister, one's a queen. This actually goes to Elon Musk. Please get this to him. You think this is the Matrix. You think it's a simulation. Fine. Same things apply. If this is a simulation, and if this is the Matrix, I'm obviously Neo, but there's still the religious story. So part of the Matrix is the world of religion. So it still ties in. So Pierre Trudeau was prime minister when I was born. As a joke, I'm like, oh, Justin Trudeau would have been like 3 or 4 years old. He was born in 1971. Do you want to know what his birthday is? Because I'm not born on Christmas. He is. December 25th, 1971 is Justin Trudeau, who legalized marijuana. I don't do any hard drugs. I tried when I was, 20 years old and partied and stuff like that. I don't drink. I don't smoke. The only thing I do is smoke weed or eat edibles, marijuana. For those that have smoked, you sit there, you smoke a joint, and you daydream. Your imagination. We're made in the image of God. It's not we take a picture, like it's not that I look like him or he looks like me. The image is like a picture. Image. Imagine. Imagination. I've been stoned for 35 years. And I've just been fucking searching and reading and figuring out what truth is. And then I went crazy and I echoed through eternity and the whole fucking story entangled itself. We're made in the image of God. All my spiritual friends, when I talk about the one, they're like, no, it's all of us. And mathematically, if we're all one, then it can be one of us. That's a singularity. They think ego, and I literally just talked to a yoga teacher yesterday. Oh my God, it made me so sick. I don't care that you don't believe me. The saddest part is that you don't even believe in your own practice and in yourself. It can be one of us because it's a singularity. But because we're all connected, for me to fulfill my destiny, it fulfills all of yours. It fulfills all of ours. Because instead of my will, I would be fulfilling the will of God. And if it's his dream, we're all that essence. I'm going to cut it off now because I can go on and on and on. I did it. We did it. My superpower is words. Sorry to swear. The reason I'm going to swear, because if I say fuck, then all Christians and Catholics will go, oh, Jesus wouldn't swear. How do you know? Is it you? No. So you have nothing to say. I don't care how much you read the Bible. It's a mystery. Wesley Huff, please get this to Wesley Huff. I'd love to talk to you. I think you're brilliant. But fuck your historical case of Christ. Christ isn't a historian. He's a mystic. He doesn't exist through time. He spliced time. If all you can do is talk about the history of Christ and quote all your stuff, you don't know him. He's a mystery. He's eternal, infinite, and timeless, and you're describing him through the filter of fucking time. Listen. My superpower is words, the word of God. My story ends this world as we know it and resets it in one move. So if we're all playing a board game and you guys have all taken your turn, it's my turn. And I'm about to shove my whole project on the table. And in one move, it's over. I'm king of heaven and earth. I own every church on the planet, the Vatican, all their shares, all their gold, and the entire Masonic empire. I don't know if the Illuminati exists, but it's not, think not secret societies. It means to illuminate yourself, to become enlightened. That's the triangle of the all-seeing eye. I mean, I might even own the Federal Reserve. It says on the $1 bill in the States, even though I'm Canadian, in God we trust. I'm the Son of God, and based on Hebrew 1:8, God says unto the Son, O God, your throne is forever and ever, a scepter of justice, whatever it is. God doesn't call him Jesus or his son. God says unto the Son, O God. The Father and the Son are one. I live in Canada. The very first line of our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom says, we recognize the supremacy of God. It does not say we believe in the supremacy of God. It says we recognize it. With recognition comes a responsibility. Failure to recognize is fraud. If I have the word of God and you're not listening, you neutralize my superpower. I can't force you to listen. I can't even force a Mason to listen. But I need you to. But I can force Canada. And I can force the government. Because remember all the dragon stuff? Dragon, it's all corporations. 666, the mark of the beast, represents death. If I'm here to judge the living and the dead, every human being's living. We're eternal. Even the ones that we think are dead. We're eternal. The things that are dead are governments, corporations, institutions. Think about it. An government and a corporation can live 1,000 years. A corporation can buy, sell, sue, be sued, and own property. It's a living entity. It's like a vampire that has no blood circulating through its veins. It can live to 1,000 years. It has no conscience. Corporation or government has no conscience. And to raise to the top in the government, you have to sell your soul. You're never going to become a prime minister or president unless you toe the line, and all the lobbyists and all the funding. You're never going to get there unless you compromise yourself. The system has to be broken, and it has been. We're all one. Please, somebody wake the fuck up. My next video is I need one cop to switch sides. I told the cop this in a little standoff. Imagine 20 of you right now, cops with guns pointed at me. And all of a sudden, one of you believes me. That cop not only would have to switch sides, but he would have to stand in front of me and draw his gun and point it at every other cop. Where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am. And I'm alone. I would love for one of you to switch sides, but we would still have to fight the government and the police. One cop switches sides, one cop believes me, and we end the world as we know it. And we will usher in 1,000 years of peace.